What up, y'all? We are here for our weekend reflection message, and it really does tie up the lessons from this week and even maybe from last week as well. I'll just get right into it and try not to talk in circles. So we've got Sun in Aquarius, which is idealism, followed by Venus in Libra, indecision. I love that the essence of Libra is indecision. Like Venus in Libra equals indecision. Mars in Aquarius, which is rebellion. And then last but not least, we've got Mars in Libra coming up again for choice. I believe this card was with us last week, if not the week before. It's been coming out like several times recently. Underneath idealism, we have Page of Swords reversed. Underneath indecision, we've got King of Wands reversed. Underneath rebellion, we have the Sun in reverse. And underneath choice, we've got Three of Swords in reverse. Now, do you guys remember, I believe it was the reflection message last week that all four of our cards were in the reverse position. So I think it's very interesting that again, this week, we are sort of turning ourselves inside out and looking at things from all angles, kind of turning our life inside out and upside down to see all of the places where our ego is lying to us, where we have blind spots, where we might be lying to ourselves or suffering from denial or limiting beliefs or maybe indecision or procrastination or lack of focus. There might be many things coming up right now. And so these things are being shown to us so that we have the opportunity to actually try to rewrite these patterns and set ourselves off on like the best foot forward in this new cycle, in this new period. So we're not just repeating old habits, but these are going to be sticky habits to break. So we have idealism here and Page of Swords reverse. The idealism card is the Sun in Aquarius. I actually did this with these cards because there was so much coming through, and I felt like there was a need to write out like common and repetitive themes that were coming through. So I'm just gonna read the notes on each card that I wrote down, and then I will just wax rhapsodic like I usually do. So we've got idealism here with this Page of Swords reversed. Eccentric and original energy and mindset, can be stubborn, stick in the mud. So question wherever you have stuck or stick in the mud qualities, where you are stuck, where these patterns are sticky, where you're having a hard time getting past something or letting something go or breaking a habit or a mindset, right? Something sneaky. And where you can let go of where you're stuck so that you can explore the new. Overcoming our old ways, stubborn patterns that keep us stuck, and it's going to take a decisive effort to overcome these. The situation itself is kind of an unpredictable situation right now, so we can prepare for the unexpected. I think that sudden change can happen right now, and so it's be prepared for opportunity and be adaptable and be prepared for like the universe to present something, some movement here. There might be something that has happened that has caused you to think and go more deep into like self-reflection. I know that the theme over the last couple of weeks being within the period of time called the Omer, which is a time that where the soul is really tested after the Passover holidays. So this is a 49-day period of inner, reflection and overcoming, those old habits that we left behind in Egypt. It's like they want to continue to follow us into the wilderness. And it's harder when we're looking into the wilderness with no certainty not to fall back in familiar patterns, right? So this is really the gauntlet where we try to solidify that new self coming through by first breaking the patterns and recognizing the patterns of the old self. And the way we do that is not by getting caught up in the emotional stories. It's not by being hard on ourselves or judgmental or critical. It's just by like getting really emotionally unattached, but observing them and then like embracing it and just looking right at it and laughing at it. But the temptation is to want to turn away and want to avoid, but we want to like go right into looking at these things and the discomfort, because the more that we can observe them, the more we can pull them out of our subconscious, and they have less effect over our choices and our actions and our consciousness, and our consciousness then informs how we behave and how we proact or react, right? So we're trying to break these things. So we are, the life that we live is in the 3D. And so it's based on time and space. And within that time and space, gaps can happen that can, allow for chaos to play out. So that is, life in general is unpredictable, and we always need to be prepared for the unexpected, but we need to be prepared to choose our consciousness and cultivate a stable consciousness of certainty that nothing is happening to me, but everything is happening for me. And so when we see these parts of ourselves coming up, these blocks or these like limiting beliefs or whatever it is, these patterns, like how do we initially feel about that? What's our go-to pattern? How do we respond? Is it something that we want to cover up or avoid or fix or numb out? There's some reactive behavior attached to it. And so we want to connect those dots and break that habit too. So look further into the situation to fully understand. Eventually change will be more beneficial. So we're continuing to go deeper into the watching our patterns and watching ourselves, and let that, the subconscious continue to present, so that we can examine these core wounds deeper and hopefully get a deeper healing there, or a deeper adjustment or a shift, so that we're no longer playing out the same experiences and patterns again and again and again. Indecision with King of Wands. So we need to overcome this inner conflict. And the big lesson here might be that because the big lesson for Libra is being stuck in indecision, because they can see both ways. They can see both sides. They can see the equal good and bad and pros and cons and good side of everything. And they're very diplomatic, but it can cause them to be in over-analysis paralysis, which can be just as damaging, because it keeps you from moving forward. It keeps you from making progress. It keeps you from fulfilling your potential. And so then it creates this feeling of, okay, well, I've been frozen in indecision, and then I've been burning time. So now I feel like I have to force the situation, and I feel this sense of urgency that's making me approach the situation with a lot of control and a lot of angst and a lot of toxic masculine energy, to want to push the situation rather than act upon divine guidance and divine timing, and with confidence. It's it lacks confidence. It's from scarcity mindedness. So there's this control and overbearing energy there. So the big ask from the universe, how we get through this part of the gauntlet, is to overcome, and it's okay, so yesterday was our Gemini new moon. Gemini suffers from the same issue of having this inner conflict in the mind. this cognitive dissonance or inner conflicting desire, where it's like, well, I want this, but then that means that I believe that this, I will sacrifice this in the process, or it puts me at risk of this. And so it's like you have a defense mechanism built up to keep you from what you want because your subconscious thinks that it's keeping you safe. And it's more than likely goes back so far to the inner child, to childhood, or to early adolescence or early adulthood. So that's why we need to go really deep. And so, and it's going to help us overcome this wound and this pattern of wasting time and precious energy and willpower and resources with indecision, being afraid to just make a choice, realizing that many times there is more than one right way. At some point, you just have to sort of make a decision, own it, see how it works, and then make adjustments as needed. But the inability to make a decision is like, I'm afraid to make a choice. I'm afraid to be wrong. I'm afraid of imperfection. I'm afraid of the consequences that are going to come. I'm afraid I'll be abandoned and left for dead, and it's going to mean my absolute obliteration and annihilation, right? So that causes a lot of like angst inside and aggression. So the notes I wrote down were overcoming inner conflict, overcoming and healing from a need to people please in order to survive, a subconscious defense. Let's see, set and keep clear and strong boundaries with yourself and others. So we need to reparent that inner child. And so we've kind of spoiled that inner child and let that wounded inner child run wild in defense mechanism mode and numbing mode. And I don't feel secure, so I'm going to act out. And so we need to reparent that inner child and learn how to restrict ourselves from overindulgences or lazy behaviors or times where we're not consistent with ourselves. We don't show up with like self-discipline, and we're not reliable to ourselves. It's like we need that version of the 1950s parent that's like, well, did you think about your actions before you acted? Because nobody grew up with that parent. We grew up with young parents who were hysterical and who were like caught up in their own drama, and they were smoking cigarettes in the car with the windows up. Like those were our parents. Like, so think of like this kind of like magnetic archetypal parent figure, and like, how can you reparent that child? Where can you give yourself better limits and boundaries where you can stop impulse spending and redirect it towards savings and investments? Where can you go to bed earlier and get up earlier and redirect that extra time to things that you care about or things that will move your life forward? Because when we have lofty goals and lofty dreams, that does take time. It takes time to focus. It takes time to plan. It takes time to do. It takes time to execute. Then there's like a process after. It's like this. It's like a never-ending process. And everybody will want that time because there's always this invisible opponent coming in trying to get us sidetracked. So it sends in these pendulums, and it's like, hey, distract, like send the friends over, or send, everybody has these like back-to-back things every week where you feel like this obligation where it's like, oh, this is going to be, I need to go, and you're abandoning yourself in the process, and you're leaving important things on the table. So there's things that need to be attended to, and we need to become decisive and own that and really prioritize it and attend to it. So, okay, stop wasting time and indecision, take decisive action. Freezing is adding to your sense of panic and urgency that causes you to be too hard on yourself. Intolerance and strictness, opposition or disagreement. So don't be intolerant or too strict with yourself, as well as don't be intolerant and too strict on others. Don't have that judgment and criticism of yourself or others right now. Just like do your best and give yourself compassion and grace and space. Don't have unachievable expectations. Don't have unreasonable standards for yourself. Just more like consistency is key rather than extremes. Opposition or disagreement, be the first to withdraw or surrender. Uneasy feeling through lack of tolerance in business situation. So again, there's this sense of uneasiness because you're being extreme with yourself and you're being really hard on yourself and critical because you haven't gotten what you want to get done yet because you've been in indecision. So now it's just like, don't beat yourself up. Just try to heal the nervous system and the things that have kept you in indecision and the emotional reasons and and the spiritual reasons. And then now just start making it like taking it upon yourself to be more decisive and take action. There's this ongoing theme also in this reading about not getting caught up in like petty disagreements or quarrels. Don't be impulsive, or like don't be reactive based on your mood or an emotion. Like don't take emotional action right now. Like it just feels like you might be in a situation where you could get strict and over domineering on your expectations of others, and then be critical and judgmental, and this escalate, then the situation could escalate, and there could be unintended consequences or misunderstandings or negative things come of that. And so there's like over and over again, so many of the cards are urging like, don't get into petty arguments. Don't express your displeasure for, specifically it's like for management situations or the way that the organization is running. It's just like, be more tolerant, right? Like maybe you're imposing your ego in a situation. So now is not a good time because it's coming from like emotional reactivity that's being stirred up because of all of these triggers, but it's coming up so you can see it, but it's just like warning you like, hey, don't take any action. Like it could have like negative results, but just see all this coming up in yourself so that you can sift through it and change that. Radically pivot from your mindset and perspective and your approach. And then don't think that the grass is greener. There will be tests, there will be dangling carrots, shiny objects. And it's like really look into things before you jump to conclusions and you think that it's a better option or a better choice or a better situation or a better direction, right? So because we need to discern what path is in alignment with us, what's providing what we need to fulfill this potential and purpose, and stick with that and not get distracted. Okay, so an uneasy feeling through lack of tolerance in a business situation. Check the facts. Are they correct? Don't let anybody be overly aggressive with you. So like don't be pushed around, but don't engage in conflict. I felt like The Chosen had a really great scene where I keep talking about the show, but I love talking about shows. And whenever I'm like on a show, I like see the metaphors in that show and how they can apply. And I think that they are used as really good illustrations. But so in one of the episodes, Jesus has been doing some miracles, and he's been doing them on Shabbat and causing a stir and causing like some scandals. And this is getting around word with like the Jewish law enforcement, the Pharisees. And also Rome is like a little bit inconvenienced by him stirring up the people and causing like crowds and like just general like people, like it'd be like having a big flash mob or parade in the street suddenly. So Jesus gets taken in for questioning, and this guy, Quintus, who's like the mayor or the overseer of this area, he's kind of a dick, but he's got like, I don't know, he's like a likable dick, like as a character, I don't know. So he's questioning Jesus, and he's sort of doing that whole passive aggressive, like, hey, everybody's here, like, I'm gonna be nice about this, but I'm gonna like have this underlying like power that I'm gonna be like displaying over here. And so he's being passive aggressive and threatening Jesus. And instead of Jesus like cowering or responding at all in a reactive way, it's like he had the perfect temperature. It was just like he was like unaffected. He was in the same energy as he came in, complete authority over his emotions and himself. And he was like, look, I can't make any promises, but I think we've both, and he's almost like a little bit like irreverent as well. So I think that it really illustrates like an interesting form of being a person who is not being disrespected no matter what the other person's behavior is, because you don't allow that into your energy field anyway. You don't really dignify their projections with a response. You don't need to. It's not affecting you because you respect yourself so much. So you're vibrating in a respectful vibration. So you don't need to engage. So it's taking like an energetic and spiritual authority rather than like an outer authority. Let's see. Okay. And then here we are with rebellion and the sun. So this is sort of like overcoming these inner blocks to just like start taking action and get started. And the way you take action might be really innovative and original. The sun is in reverse. So I'm just going to read you the notes here and then we can like discuss further. So in regards to the rebellion card, turn current thinking on its head and approach it from a different angle. So change your perspective in the situations that are triggering you here. That's the lesson. It's not to have some big reactive behavior and like take some big outward action. The key first is to change your perspective and shift your consciousness completely, pivot where you're coming from, because that might change everything. And you may not have to take any big drastic outer actions. Because so many times it's an internal thing first. Always an internal thing first and foremost, but sometimes that's all it takes. So turn current thinking on its head, approach it from a different angle. Expressing displeasure for authority, seeing outdated modes of doing and being. So again, it's like pointing out that you might feel like you're seeing these things right now and you're displeased with how things are going or running, but just like don't criticize and don't judge. Keep it to yourself. You might be being intolerant, right? And like the other card says, and being strict and severe. And so instead of doing something that you can't take back, when you say things, you can't unsay them, and so just keep it to yourself. Avoid like what could be chaos and self-destruction and self-defeatism. But just, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, right? It might come back to bite you in the ass. It's evil tongue, it's evil eye. So it's going to have an element of chaos with it. So don't engage in petty quarrels. Don't use this time. Like, even though sometimes it is healthy to express your needs and have like proactive confrontation, I feel like for this week or so, maybe now is not a good time to do that. Maybe there's more going on, more information is needed. There's more to know. There's more inward work to do, but maybe there's more research to be done in the outer situation. Let's see, don't make impulsive choices or take impulsive action based on mood this week. Look into all the facts before you leap. Maybe you may have regrets if you act on impulse. The need to be realistic in your outlook on life, the need to be honest with oneself, stop daydreaming and put the effort into your goals. That's a big one, like for me, especially right now, because Jupiter just moved into Gemini. So it is expanding our inspiration and our ideas and our imagination, but it can also expand us into that dreaming state where we're not getting enough done. And it's like we're having a hard time focusing. So we need to get grounded and focused and actually make a hell of an effort. We're only going to have the results of the efforts. We're only going to yield the results that are going to be comparable to the efforts that we put in. Depression and failure is not for you. Before becoming involved in a project, investigate all aspects. So for instance, like when you're looking for a job, this is a good, for example, in restaurants. I love the restaurant that I work at because it has so many Goldilocks zone elements to it. It's like it has so many things that make it just the right place for me to work. Sure, there are places where this is true and that is true and this and that. If I looked around to other places, one or two aspects might be better, but it would be like at the sacrifice of like something major that I don't want to, take. So for instance, like if somewhere is like, oh yeah, they can make this amount of money there, and it sounds like way more than I have. All right, well, take into account things. What are the menu prices? How many hours long is the shift? Is it far away? Is that drive going to eat into my day? Like, so am I suddenly giving more time that is going to take away from my quality of life, that is against my core reasons of why I wanted this job to be, you know what I mean? So you start realizing like, oh, I'm putting the cart before the horse here. I need to re-examine all of the factors in. Are they open for lunch and dinner? Would I have to work doubles? Do I have to work a brunch? Like, you know what I mean? So there's so many factors involved when you go, like, even something as simple as making a conscious choice about the way that you want to curate your life. Take your time to observe the situation and emotionally detach. Because if you're emotionally excited and you're reactive and you're like, you know what, I am ready to make that amount of money. I don't care what it takes. I'm just going to do it. You could get yourself into a terrible situation that's unhappy and that is not in alignment with any of your other core values. It was just like, oh, I just got caught up in that one aspect and I made an impulsive choice that I didn't discern. And so last but not least, this like choice card here, Mars in Libra, it's like a difficulty in making a decision. And so it's like you're having a difficult time moving forward because you're having a hard time in general just being decisive. The Three of Swords reversed card is about like not getting caught up in the petty quarrels. Don't be caught up in like confrontational things. Be careful about, miscommunications or disagreements that can cause upset. But yes, we are going to have to just choose within ourselves to be determined, to be decisive, to get disciplined in our mastery of our consciousness, our mastery of our habits, the mastery of our choices, and where we direct our energy and focus. And then cutting out the things that are not adding to our life's quality of life, our value, or our worth. So mood swings, don't be impulsive, have tact and diplomacy, even though it might be difficult to have tact and diplomacy. Making a difficult choice, a deliberate change of direction, practice restriction. Don't do anything until you have drastically changed your outlook and approach. Too much disorder and confusion, the need to get organized. Petty quarrels could lead to serious disagreements. Be the peacemaker, even when difficult. Think before you speak. All right, y'all. Well, I'm going to run out into the park for a few hours and then spend quite a lot of time doing other fun, studious little nerdy activities that I do. And I hope y'all have a good rest of your weekend. And yeah, stick with the work, go deep, keep looking at it. Don't look away, don't numb it, don't try to fix it. Just use this as a wonderful opportunity to get in there, go deep, and set out on this new cycle with like new energy, a new person, new nervous system. Who dis? Ciao.